So we'll continue with the mains paper, that is General Studies paper 2. So we have discussed General Studies paper 1. So similar to General Studies paper 1, here also we can categorize the subjects. So like three subjects, that is basically about Indian governance, one part. So we can see like Indian governance. Okay. So if you take governance, constitution and polity as one subject, and social justice another subject, and the third is international relations. Okay. So we'll understand the syllabus, what is the requirement. Okay. Second paper mainly discuss about the administrative aspects. Okay. So we can again categorize it like three parts. One is on the government governance side, another is social justice and IR. Okay. First, Indian constitution. In the preliminary exam also we have studied the Indian polity plays an important role. Okay. So Indian constitution, here they are talking about historical underpinnings, right? Evolution, features, amendments, significant provisions and the basic structure. Even though here constitution they are talking only about this part, but whatever we have studied in the preliminary syllabus means in the for the preliminary exam, so completely it is useful here. Okay. But they are talking about the historical underpinnings and evolution, how it happened, right? Like after the entry of the British as a traders to India, we know that how slowly they tried to capture the power, correct, using the options available to them, what are the rights they have got from the local kings and queens. They used that power and how they tried to establish their administration in India, correct. So after that, so definitely the rules and regulations are required in order to run the country, right? For the smooth functioning of that area, they started slowly the rules and regulations, and we have studied those things and we will study those things in like the 1773 onwards, the Regulation Act, Pitt's India Act, or how the crown ruled earlier, correct, how the company ruled first, later how the crown ruled after 1857 war. All those historical underpinnings and the evolution of the Indian constitution to the present, so that need to be studied. The features means how the each amendment, how the evolution taken place, right? Slowly how the small structure of administration happened and how it reached its climax, the present parliamentary system, correct. All those things, the features we need to study. Amendments especially very important from the point of mains, because the amendments are changing the original features of the constitution. I'm not telling that the basic structure is changed, okay, original feature, and it is adapting to the new era. The new requirements are coming every day, correct. So every day we need to change according to the needs. So it is basically organic growth, organic, how a tree grows, correct, how a tree grows, taking the available opportunities, correct. So every tree is not the same. Even you may be having a same seeds, it looks same, but it is not, tree will not be the same, fine. So here the amendments are very important, correct. So from the beginning, so more than 100 amendments have taken place till now. So we need to understand the important ones. Some are having very important impact on our daily life. Okay. So those important amendments will be studied in this. Okay. And significant provisions and basic structure. Obviously you may be having more than 450 articles in the constitution, but all are not having the same significance. Some are very relevant for everyday operation of the administration. Every day it comes into picture, correct. So important provisions of the constitution and the basic structure. Basic structure is basically given after the Keshwananda Bharti case. Okay, so basically it talks about for if you want to renovate a house, assume that your grandmother is saying that without changing the basic structure. What is the meaning of her basic structure? Like for example, the puja room and kitchen, she don't want to change. Remaining whatever you want to renovate. Okay, so like that in our constitution also, the constitution makers have given some ideologies, given some basic principles how to rule India, on what ground it should be carried out. So those things should not be changed. Correct. So that innovation means that word basic structure was given in the Keshavananda Bharti case. So we need to understand what is the importance of it. Definitely it is important because it will not allow an individual person or a party in power to change the constitution as per their whims and fancies. So it should not happen. Okay, so that we are going to discuss in the basic structure. Then here the functions and the responsibilities of the union and the states. So here we are talking about the government and its governance. Union and states. What is the responsibility of the states and union government? So we all we all see around us, right, how the relation between the state and center is there. What is the role of the union? For example, taking care of the security of the nation or making laws for whole nation. So all the important issues which are common for all the states and union territories, correct, how they are playing their role, means union government playing the administrative role, correct, and also the law making role, and also it is maintaining a relation with the judiciary because it need to work as per the law or as per the interpretation made by the judiciary, correct. Anyway, so functions and responsibilities. So multiple responsibilities are there for the union government and also for the states. Okay, within the states, how the state government should behave, how it should take care of the people, how it should coordinate with the center for the implementation of the schemes, correct? How it should support the center in case of security of the nation, correct? So all these things and issues and challenges pertaining to federal structure, very, very important. We all know that India is not a result of like a particular agreement is signed and all states joined and India has been made. No, it is not like that. So here the federal structure is not like that. So it is Union of India was made first, correct? And all the units are part of it. It is not through any agreement. But even then, so the union government must ensure the rights of the states, correct? So they should act independently, they should work independently. So in that federal structure, so many issues we are seeing. For example, whenever it comes to issue of giving money to the states, we know that how the states demand and how the center behaves. Sometimes there will be complaints against the union. That is, the party in power at the center is favoring the states based upon their party in power in the states also. Correct? Suppose if BJP is in power, it helps the states where the BJP is in power. If Congress comes to power, it helps the states where Congress is in power. So these kind of issues, that's what issues we say. Okay, the money distribution is not happening properly, or the scheme implementation, the support is not given by the center, or similarly from the state side also, lot of problems will be created for the center. Okay, but who is bigger power? That is center. So always the complaints are more against the center. So is it true? To what extent it is true? Correct, we need to discuss that issues and challenges. So if both the union government and state government cooperate, correct, so it is possible to run the country smoothly. Okay, we need competitive and cooperative federalism. then only whole nation can improve. But there are multiple challenges. Whenever the central government want to bring a law, so all the state governments will not come to an agreement that easily. So we are going to discuss all the federal structure related issues. Devolution of powers and finances up to local levels and challenges therein. Especially the local self-government, which was the dream of Gandhi, especially to develop the villages. So 73rd and 74th amendments in the constitution provides the local self-government, that is Panchayat Raj as well as urban local bodies, urban local governments, correct? But whether the sufficient power is given to them, okay, whether the sufficient funds are given, sufficient functions are given, and the functionaries, because without money, without the officers there to work, it is not possible to carry out the responsibilities, correct? Devolution of powers and finances up to local level and challenges therein. So very, very important. It is not just by telling in the constitution that okay, separate panchayat will be there. So we need to ensure that sufficient funds are available for them so that they can develop. So what are the issues we are facing there? Okay, what kind of powers are given to the local level bodies? Fine. So we need to discuss those things. Then syllabus says separation of powers between various organs and dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. Very, very important topic, because what happens is, see, Montesquieu has given a concept, separation of powers. Like we have legislature is separate, executive is separate, and judiciary is separate. If power is concentrated in the single hand, you will know that there is a lot of chance of misuse or abuse of the power. So power should be separated. But in reality, what happens? This separation of powers, even though it exists, but we know that interference of one organization in the other organization, it's keep on happening. Like dispute redressal mechanisms and institutions. Fine, some body is there, okay, in order to carry out the dispute or to give the solution for that. But some other institution will be having its influence over it, right? Whether that separation of power is strictly happening or influence is being carried out. So we need to understand the different organizations, like how the institutions, like commissions, like Women Commission, Children Commission, SC/ST commissions will work independently, correct? And also the institutions like Lokpal, Lokayukta, and Central Vigilance Commission. So different bodies are there. And if you come to regulatory mechanisms like SEBI, so which controls the stock market, so insurance, IRDA, correct? Insurance Regulatory Development Authority. So PFRDA, which controls the pensions. So there are multiple organizations, correct? And also dispute appellate authorities to solve the problems of the people. But whether that separation of power, is it existing, how it is existing, in what mode it is existing, okay, whether interference is still going on, how to check that, what are the challenges. So we need to understand here in this separation of powers between the various organs and dispute redressal mechanisms, correct? It may be judiciary or it may be appellate authority. So definitely the conflict will arise, and how the solution is taken out of it. So we need to discuss. And next is comparison of Indian constitution scheme with the other countries. Indian constitution, okay, we know that it's a bag of borrowings. We have taken so much features from almost around 60 countries across the world, correct? Many features like fundamental rights taken from USA, directive principles taken from Irish, correct? And constitutional amendment method is taken from South Africa. But we need to compare. Why we need to compare? See, without comparison, the growth is not possible, correct? Without comparison, we cannot develop ourselves. So comparison is a good tool. Then only we can show what we are. The same way, Indian constitution need to be compared with the other constitution across the world. Okay, we need to compare our constitution with UK, USA, Switzerland. So this comparison helps us. If in a future, if we want to make any amendments also, it helps us. It helps us, okay, to make us better. So we'll study that comparisons of constitutions and their features. Parliament and state legislature. Structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers, privileges, issues arising out of this. Parliament, we know that the highest law-making body for the nation. We already know that. State legislature, the law-making body for the state. So what is the structure? Okay, structure. It is also important from the preliminary point of view, like how the composition, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is there, how many people are there, correct? So whether the second house is it required or is it like a white elephant, a big burden? Anyway, so in the state also, state legislative assembly. In some states, we can also see state legislative councils, correct? So that we need to understand the structure, how it functions, correct? How a law is made, that is functioning. Means both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, how they are involved in lawmaking, whether it is a budget bill or it may be an ordinary bill or it's a constitutional amendment bill, how actually they functions, correct? How the lawmakers behave, how the expert committees will help them, all those functioning with respect to parliament and state legislature. Conduct of business, powers, privileges. So rules of procedure in Lok Sabha, how it is followed. Okay, how speaker has role in the Lok Sabha, how chairman plays a role in the Rajya Sabha. Conduct, how the different activities are carried out. Fine. Conduct of business, what kind of discussions will happen, how the questioning will take place. And in order to have a smooth running of the parliament, what are the different privileges are given to them? Means individual privileges given to MPs or MLAs or the collective privileges given to whole parliament. Is it really good or the privileges are being misused? So what is happening? So all these things we are going to discuss in this part of the syllabus. Then structure, organization and functioning of the executive and the judiciary. Okay, structure, organization and functioning of the executive and also the judiciary. Okay, here if you take the executive, so we know that law making body, executive and judiciary, how a law is made, how it is implemented by the executive. If there is any conflict arises between these two, how the judiciary solves the problem. Okay, so structure of the executive, we know that at the top the president is sitting. He is in charge of all the executive actions. Without his seal and signature, so nothing can be implemented in India. Correct? Officially, he is the head of the nation. He is the head of the executive. How the executive is playing a role. And below that, the government, basically cabinet, the ministries and the departments of the government, like education department, finance department, law department, agriculture department, business department, correct? All these departments, how they are functioning as a team, like a ministries under the president. Fine? We need to understand that. Similarly, how judiciary is independently acting. At the top, how Supreme Court is functioning under the CJI, Chief Justice of India. How the high courts are functioning. How the appointments being carried out. Appointments of Supreme Court and High Court judges. So, what is the problem with the appointment? Correct? So, what are the issues? Like in the judiciary, if you come, so judiciary is putting its hand in the legislature, executive. Means it is directing the legislature. It is directing the executive to do the certain tasks whenever the executive fails. So that is famously, like we call it as judicial activism, judicial overreach. Correct? So is it right? Why judiciary should intervene here? Or judiciary should keep itself to just analyzing, interpretation and giving its verdicts, whether it's right or wrong? Or it should also say that, Okay, please run the CNG buses because pollution is increasing in Delhi. So it's a judgment, it's a direction given by the court. Is it correct? Because it is a duty of the executive. Is this interference is okay or not okay? Correct? All this, the functioning of the judiciary, we need to understand. Fine. Then pressure groups and formal and informal association and the role in the polity is very, very important. The lobby groups. If something is happening in the government, some bill is coming, some new act is coming now, some new scheme is coming, it is not possible without the help, without the pressure groups. What happens is that there may be good and there may be bad out of it. Say it's not that always the laws are the result of the lawmakers. Outside groups will put a pressure on them. Outside groups will force them. Correct? The pressure groups. It may be an NGO, it may be a business group. Correct? When some law is coming, for example, if Lokpal is coming, that is the pressure from whole India under the leadership of Anna Hazare. So the pressure groups may be NGOs. Correct? After the guidelines, there's mainly Vishaka guidelines with respect to the rape and sexual harassment of the women. Correct? So it is with the help of a NGO, the NGO's pressure. It may be to the judiciary or it may be to the executive. Correct? So the pressure groups play a dominant role here. Pressure groups play a dominant role. The formal and informal associations. Correct? Like non-governmental organization. Correct? So these formal, it may be like a association. For example, business associations will be there. Correct? Or informally. So without not under any banner, but people will gather and put pressure for something. Correct? So very, very important. We also call it as a lobby. See, lobbying may not be legal in India, but that plays its own role. Its own role, because the political parties need funds. And if somebody is giving huge amount of funds to the political party, so don't they expect something in back? Okay, how to check that? Whether lobby is good or bad. Sometimes it's good for the nation, sometimes it favors only certain section of the society. So both are there. Anyway, that we are going to discuss here in the pressure group, formal and informal association and role in the polity. Yes, they play a bigger role here. Next, okay, that is Representation of People Act. Representation of People Act. There are two acts. One is Representation of People Act 1950, another is 1951. The salient features need to be studied because in the constitution, with respect to elections or with respect to conduct of the members, that is one who is contesting for election, everything is not put in detail. Who has to contest for election, who is barred from the election. So many details are missing in the constitution. So in detail, the Representation of People Act, okay, is going to carry about the eligibility or disqualification. Fine. So all the factors which are missing in our constitution are covered in the Representation of People Act. And here appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. Very, very important. The constitutional bodies like UPSC, the Finance Commission, the CAJ, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So these are constitutional bodies. For them, okay, so you want to appoint the chief, right? So always the problems we have, like for example, in the selection process, the opposition leader is also there. Sometimes because of there is no opposition leader, the key positions are not filled. So we need to understand what is the appointment procedure, what is the problem associated with it, and the powers and functions of those bodies, to what extent they are independent, how UPSC is independent, how Election Commission is independent, how Finance Commission is independent, what is the role they are playing, what is the suggestion they are giving. Correct? So all those things are very important. We need to understand that. Okay, and so we can also say apart from constitutional bodies, the non-constitutional bodies are also there. Some are quasi-judicial bodies. Some are having the power of a civil court. They can call anyone for the evidence, they can inquire, right? So the statutory bodies are there, regulatory bodies are there. Fine. Like SEBI, the regulatory body, we need to understand. IRDA, regulatory body. Fine. Statutory bodies like RBI, we need to understand all those bodies because they are playing their own role in the sphere. It may be financial sphere, but for them, they may be playing the role in the financial sector, but the regulation or the laws are made by the parliament. Okay, so those are statutory bodies. Statutory bodies. Similarly, regulatory bodies, because if without control, we know that how what kind of scams may happen or happened in the earlier, correct? So in order to check such things and protect the people, that is the citizens of India, so we need to study about these bodies, what is their function, role. Okay, is there any issue with the appointment? Is there any political interference is there? If it is there, how it can be tackled? Okay, so this is till now about the polity and governance and the constitution part. There is one subject. Okay, so if you take in the general studies paper 2, if you take in the general studies paper 2, we can also see the social justice. Social justice is an important subject, we know, because in India it's a vast diversity has created a lot of inequalities. We need to have a egalitarian society, we need to have a equal society, so we need to put external effort so that all will become equal, correct? So in order to make everyone as equal, in order to achieve the egalitarian society, so government has to put a lot of effort, and also the society need to put lot of effort, then only we can achieve the egalitarian society. So that aspects can be studied in the social justice, okay, which is also a feature in our preamble of our constitution. So justice is very, very important. So here the government policies and intervention for the development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Okay, and it says that development processes and the development industry, the role of NGOs, self-help groups, various groups, associations, donors, charities, institutions, and other stakeholders. As we said, the social justice is not just possible with government. The other sections of the society also need to respond. Here, the government policies or the interventions for the development. In order to develop the backward areas, the backward area fund, the backward area like rejuvenation schemes, correct? In order to develop a particular area where the rainfall is not available, correct? So government is going to launch the schemes where the irrigation can be promoted, or the river linking can be planned so that water is available to that areas so that it can develop. An area may be not developed due to lack of education, so government will put lot of effort to establish schools, colleges there, and throughout India, like bringing laws like right to education. Fine. So government is going to bring up policies and interventions, so only to bring about the development, carry out the development in all sectors. It may be not just primary or secondary or tertiary sectors. So creating more jobs in all the fields, providing the opportunities through loans. Fine. So it is going to work hard so that whole nation can prosper. And any problems arising out of the design and implementation. For example, NREGA, in order to provide lot of employment opportunity for the rural youth, the NREGA plan was there. Earlier, there were so many problems with the design, so they were fixed now. For example, just to create the job, like just dig the well and fill the well. So that is not a way to work, right? It is not going to give any productive asset for the nation. So like that, any problem with the design and implementation will be filled. So we are studying about that. Okay, we need to understand how the development is happening. Correct? How the development of the industries are taking place. So what is the role played by the non-governmental organization in ensuring that development is taking place everywhere? Because government cannot be there everywhere. The NGOs, the lakhs of NGOs are playing their role in the development process. They are contributing to the society. They are creating the job opportunities. They are disseminating the information from the government side. Self-help groups. Today, the lakhs of self-help groups, especially the women, are playing a dominant role. They are making their own group and they are getting loans from the banks and they are doing the business like candle making or cloth selling or cigar making. So many jobs they are taking up, and self-help groups are successful model in India. How actually they are functioning? Why they are not defaulting? Why they are not taking money and running away? How it is getting success? So we need to understand various groups. Apart from this, many other groups are there in the society. Associations are there, business association, lawyers association, educators association. So we can see charities, how they are taking the orphan child and giving education, old age support they are giving, right? They are also playing their role. So who can work directly? They are doing charities, running charities. Who cannot work? They are giving donations and helping the people. It may be institutional or it may be individual, correct? So we need to study all these things, how it is ensuring the social justice in the society. And the welfare schemes for vulnerable sections of the population by the center and the states and the performance of these schemes. Fine. Very, very important. Welfare schemes are there with respect to education, with respect to food, with respect to employment. How the central government and state government are involved in bringing these schemes, whether they are successful or there any problem. If they are successful, how to extend it further. If they are not successful, how to take it back and launch a new scheme, correct? So we need to understand this. Many schemes are there for the vulnerable sections. It may be SC, ST or transgender, or it may be old age, or it may be children. So many areas the vulnerable people, vulnerable sections of the society are given with different schemes, welfare schemes. The mechanisms, laws and institutional bodies constitute for the protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections. We know that National Commission for Women is there, National Commission for Children is there, SC, ST National Commissions are there. So how the laws are made, how the institutions are working, what function they are following from the top to bottom. So we need to understand that. So without those support of those institutions, it is not possible to make the government programs, welfare schemes successful. Okay. Then issues relating to development and management of the social sector or services relating to health, education and human resources. We know that a country which is good at health and education will prosper like anything, because these two are the fundamentals for any nation. If the health is good, they can contribute very well to the nation, correct? If the health and proper education is there, very, very important. That's why we know that how the basic education is made free, how some states have made the women education completely free up to the graduation level, how the recruitment agencies are promoting, facilitating, empowering the women, encouraging the women to take part in the participation, means like in the recruitment process, how they are encouraging women candidates more, correct? So, and human resource, definitely yes, this is the asset. The people are the asset of the nation. So we need to ensure the quality human resources. Skills need to be important. We know that Skill India program. So issues relating to development and management of these social sectors and services with respect to this, definitely issues are there. Health, institutional deliveries are not 100%. So still maternal mortality rate is there. We need to reduce it further. There is an improvement. Still we need to work. Infant mortality rate, still the children are dying. Okay, lack of nutrition is there. Lack of institutional deliveries. So we need to provide the quality food for them. Education. The quality education is not available. Education is improving, no doubt about it. So the quality education, especially in the government side, need to be ensured. So what are the issues? How the enrollments are happening? How the quality of education need to be improved? Because there's a mismatch. What is asked in the market and what is provided in the schools is different. So because of that, only new education policy is being brought, and it is in process of implementation, right? So those things we need to understand. Okay. Issues relating to poverty and hunger. It is the biggest challenge for any country, and India also is working hard on it. So the poverty alleviation program. Okay, so many committees, so many commissions have recommended, from Lakadwala committee to till now, correct? Till now, up to Rangarajan committee, we can understand. So, what is poverty? Poverty is the basic state of mind. Poverty, like, we cannot say like, who is poor? Always it is relative. I compare myself with someone and say that I am poor. But from the government point of view, at least the basic roti, kapda, makan, that is food, shelter, okay, clothing and education, entertainment, the basic things, if they are able to get it, okay, if they are not able to get it, then they are considered as the below poverty. So what are the programs like for to eliminate the hunger? It is not just about food, it's about quality food. Poshan Abhiyan, otherwise stunting will happen, lot of problems will be there. Most of the Indian women are suffering from anemia. Okay, how the problem of that hunger is solved, how the food security is being ensured through act, how the public distribution work is happening, how the midday meal will be working. Anyway, all those things we need to understand, issues relating to that. Then important aspect of governance, transparency, accountability, correct? Whatever we do, it should be transparent. How it is ensured, like Right to Information Act or Citizen Charter, automatically some documents need to be published. Accountability, if they are not doing, how the punishment will be carried out, means what action will be taken against the officers. E-governance. So nowadays, everything is carried out through online mode, correct? All the services should be provided through online mode, which reduces the cost and also ensures the accountability. How it is possible, how the mobile governance is going on, correct? The different models, successes, limitations, potential, we need to analyze, and we are analyzing, and we are moving more and more towards the e-governance. Citizen charters. So when a person is approaching the government department, he should be knowing that what service is available, how many days I can get it, what is the fees to be paid, all those details. If it is available, that is the true empowerment of the citizens. Transparency and accountability and institutional and other measures. Okay, what measures we are taking, correct? What if the citizen is not getting his right, correct? How Lokpal is there, Lokayukta is there to ensure the accountability, how CBI is functioning, how CBC is functioning, how right to information, correct? How the Central Commission of Information is working. So these are all the important things we need to understand and study. And what is the role of civil service in democracy? Very, very important, because you are going to be the civil servant. What is the bigger role they are going to play? They are playing anonymously. Whatever work they do, they are playing anonymously. The minister is responsible for everything. But who is giving the ideas behind him? It is the civil servants, correct? So what biggest role it is playing? We know that a lot of problem has happened with the civil services, and there is a nexus. We can see how the ministers and the civil servants are doing. But it has given its own contribution. How Patel has united India, and he said that it is a steel frame of India. Civil service is playing a bigger role in ensuring the rights of the people in India. Correct? Whether the civil servant should act neutrally or it should be like aligned to political party. We know that how the officers, the civil servants are attached to a particular political party, in showing the biasness towards them. So that role of civil service in a democracy. So we need to understand their role, whether it's a neutral civil servant or a committed civil servant or biased towards a political ideology. So, but it is not, there are some people may be having problem, but it is playing its own role in the democracy, the bigger role in the democracy. So this is about the social justice part. And the third important subject is international relations. International relations in the general studies paper 2. Okay, it is another important subject. We know that since from the ancient times, since from the Harappan civilization, we had relations with the countries, correct? We had the relation of trade. It is not something new. So we have neighbors. Now also we have neighbors, and in the past also we have neighbors. Correct? The international relations are very, very important because we are not isolated. We are not self-sufficient. We need something, like we need oil. So some country should help us. Correct? We need technology. Some country should help. In the agriculture, how Israel is helping us, how Israel is giving technology, how European countries are helping us. We need some defense equipments. So definitely the dependency is there. Correct? Definitely the dependency is there. And the neighbors are there. We can choose our friends, but not neighbors. Correct? How the neighbors should be treated, how we need to have a relation with them. It is unavoidable, right? Just because Pakistan is our enemy country, we cannot stop all the relation with them. We need to improve it. Correct? Because we cannot choose our neighbors. We cannot make them to go away. Fine. So, in the international relation, the neighbors are there and the friends are there. How India maintains relations with the US or Russia or France or Britain. So, we need to understand that. Correct? So, what type of coordination can happen? What kind of benefit can India get in the international fora? So, we need to understand what is the role of India in the international relation. When the whole world was divided into two poles, correct? In the bipolar world, India chose its own path, that is non-alignment movement. Neither I don't want to join to the USA bloc or to the Russia bloc, that is USSR, earlier known as USSR. So it chose its own path, that is non-alignment. So still is it relevant? We need to understand. Correct? So here in the syllabus, India and its neighborhood relation. Yes, how we maintain relation with Pakistan, China, Bangladesh. How the problem is solved with the Bangladesh. The land border dispute was solved. Correct? How it is possible? What is the relationship with Sri Lanka? What is the relation with Maldives? Afghanistan? Correct? We need to understand the small nations like Bhutan, Nepal. All are our neighbors. So how we are maintaining relation? Correct? How we are maintaining relation with China? Everything need to be studied. Bilateral, regional and global groupings and agreements involving India and affecting India's interest. So bilateral, where only two countries, like agreement between India and USA, bilateral agreement. Regional, for example, SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Countries. How the groupings, correct? That is the regional grouping. Global groupings. Okay. For example, WTO, World Trade Organization, United Nations, the global grouping. How India is involved in that and agreements involving with them. For example, in WTO we have so many agreements. With respect to United Nations, we are following so many agreements with other countries. Correct? So India is leading the developing countries. It is representing so many countries. It is playing its bigger role. Why India need to allow the US goods here? Because we want some benefit from them. So what is the role played by India in the international events? For example, whenever it comes to during the time of COVID, we can see that how India was supplying vaccines because it is the hub of pharmaceutical industry. Right? How India is supplying the talented people to European countries. Anyway, so how these groupings or agreements are happening? Because India is the biggest market. Other countries want to come here. And also India wants some benefit from the whole world. So we need to understand all these things. What is the India's interest? Next, effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries and India's interest, Indian diaspora. Okay, so there are so many policies. If we do like, okay, so we don't want to, we want only Indian goods. Okay, only we want to promote made in India. How this policy is affecting Indian investment? Correct. The people may not come to India for investment. How the developed nations are doing the policies? Correct. What kind of exemption they want to give to India? What kind of tariffs they want to impose on India? Correct. Effect of policies and politics of developed and developing nation countries on India's interest. See, India may not be involved there, but still it affects India. Correct. So the two countries or Southeast Asian countries are making agreement with the European countries. Don't you think that it is going to affect India? Some countries are making agreement with China. Don't you think that it is going to affect India? Because it makes India wide of opportunities. The opportunities will be lost for India. So definitely we need to understand. We should not think like, okay, some grouping is going on, why we should worry? Definitely we need to worry. So because it affects India. Okay. And Indian diaspora. We know that since from ancient times, the Indian people are spread across the world. Now also Indian diaspora is present in USA, France, all European countries, Australia, and Southeast nations, African countries. Correct? So Indian population is spread across the world. That is Indian diaspora. How to make use of the diaspora for the benefit of India? We need to study that thing. What is the advantage? So we celebrate Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Okay, we are connecting the Indian people, Indian origin people with India back. How the investment can be brought. How about the NRIs can contribute to the development and growth of the nation? So we need to understand that in the Indian diaspora. And important international institutions, agencies, and fora, their structure and mandate. So mainly we need to talk about like WTO, World Trade Organization, how it is playing its role, how United Nations is playing its role, how IMF, okay, International Monetary Fund is playing its role, how the World Bank is playing its role. Correct. So the international institutions, how the Asian Development Bank is working, how the Asian Infrastructure Bank is working, how the New Development Bank of the, or also called as BRICS Bank, correct, how these international institutions are working, how India is involved in that. All these things we need to study in the international relations. Very, very important. If you get selected in the UPSC Civil Service Examination, you can also choose for Indian Foreign Service, where you can represent the India. Okay, you can contribute for the Indian growth through your engagements, how you are connecting two countries. So you are also playing a dominant role there. Okay, so like this, the international relations is very important topic. Okay, so we need to understand these things. Again, we need to study the basic NCERTs for these things, the contemporary India, the contemporary world. Okay, contemporary world NCERT we need to study. Okay, for international relations, you can also refer Kamath book, VN Kamath. Correct. So, but understanding is more possible if you refer the government websites. Okay, Ministry of External Affairs website and IDSA website, and also going through Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha channels will help you a lot here. Okay, fine. So we have discussed paper 1 and paper 2. Now we'll move towards the general studies paper 3. Okay, so take a break and we'll continue with the general studies paper 3 syllabus discussion. Okay, thank you.